So what do you do when the audience is spread out in the room you're playing in? Hi, Jerry Corley, standupcomedyclinic.com with another episode of Ask the Joke Doctor. In this episode, we're going to discuss a tweet question I got from somebody on Twitter. The person asks, let me see if I can get it up here, if I can get it up. That's not really what I meant to say. Anyway, the Trevor Dean at the Stand-Up Diary, he comes out of Canada. Trevor asks, audiences feel that sitting near the stage and closer together will get them picked on. How can openers make audiences feel comfortable enough to sit closer together, especially when the MC bombs and you're up next? When are they spread out? When they spread out across the room. Now, let me answer this question. First of all, you can't say definitively that openers, how can openers make audiences feel comfortable enough to sit closer? Or you can't say that audiences feel that sitting near the stage and closer together will get them picked on. You can't say that definitively. Audiences will sit where they're told to sit. So basically, the job is not of the MC to get the audience to sit closer together. The MC can try to have audience members come to the front or audience members sit closer together, but it's technically not the MC's job. That's the house's job. So when people get the ticket, it's the house's job then to seat them from front to back so that we fill the front first and then fill the back. Over at the Comedy Store in their main room, that thing sits, I think, close to 400, but they actually, if it doesn't quite reach that capacity level, they'll close off the back first. They close it off with a curtain so that people can only sit in the front. And if you do have an usher doing their job, either a ticket taker or the manager doing their job, or a bartender or a waitress, you make sure the audience sort of sits in front first and front to back. Now, if they don't do that, the MC can try to get up there and say, "Hey guys, it's so much of a better show if you all sit towards the front." You can even say something, "We're recording tonight, doing a video recording tonight. It'd be great if we could see the back of your heads while you're sitting up at the front of the stage. Come on in, I got a free T-shirt for the first person who sits up in the front," or whatever, something like that, something to get them encouraged to sit up in the front. Now, that does make for a better starting environment. However, right there, it sounds to me like you're kind of making excuses. Look, if the MC doesn't do the job to warm up the audience, you've got to come up there and kind of pick up that slack. MCs, here's the biggest, I think I posted this in a video before about how clubs seem to choose the wrong people to be MCs. First of all, they shouldn't choose new people to be MCs. It should be experienced people to be MCs, because that is the most important job. Getting that audience warmed up, getting everybody to feel like they're in the soup, ready to play, ready to have a good time. And that's what an MC is supposed to do, is create that energy. And the MC's job is also to balance the transition between, say, a high energy comic into a low energy comic, and so that the audience is settled down, ready to go for the next comedian to come on stage. The MC should not be focused on their act. The MC should be focused on the audience being in the place to be ready to have a great time, so that the next act that comes up is ready to go and the audience is already warm. That's what an MC does. MC is basically the warm-up act to get the audience hot and to give them a focal point in between acts. So they come back up there. Is everybody good? Remember, we have drink specials, that sort of thing, just to make them all feel good and do some crowd work. The MC's most important task here is to create a conversation, to make everybody feel that they're welcome, that they're ready to play, and that we're here to have a good time with the acts that are coming on the stage next. And another thing the MC is supposed to do is pre-frame the next comic coming to the stage. And what pre-framing is, and pre-framing is very important. There's been studies done on pre-framing. If the MC gets up there, establishes trust with the audience, then is ready to introduce that next act and sort of gives credentials about the next act, then the audience is automatically shaped to believe that the next act is is really going to do a great job, and they're going to have fun. You guys are going to have a lot of fun with this next guy. He's been doing some cool stuff. He was over at he was at the Comedy Store recently, where he opened for Chris Rock. He was just nominated for funniest comedian in Bogota, Colombia, or whatever. And here he comes to the stage right now. Please help me welcome, whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're creating an excitement and enthusiasm, giving the audience confidence that the next comedian coming to the stage has got game. So if the audience is spread out and you're the next act up and the MC did a shitty job at getting them all warmed up, then that's your job. You've got to get in there and now take up the slack of that MC by now talking to the audience, engaging a little conversation. Stand-up is a conversation. It's one-sided for the most part, but it is a conversation. But if you're not present with them discussing the situation about, wow, you guys are really spread out. We got a big comedy moat right here where there's nobody. So I'll talk to you over here and maybe use a game or something to say, hey, make a little noise over here. Let's make a little noise over here. Let's see who can make the most noise, just to get them all participating and having fun. And it doesn't matter if you do your act just to one table and then do your act to the other table. If you walk to side to the stage and deal with it that way, because you've been dealt the cards you've been dealt, but you have to learn to deal with them comedically. Here's an important thing to know and to really inherently believe. You got to say to yourself, never lose your sense of humor about the sense of funny going for the night. So you seem to pre-frame in your mind, because the place was spread out and the MC did a horrible job and bombed, that puts you in a bad mood. And you can't have that bad mood. You got to get up there. It's like, wow, it's like just what we needed. Everybody's spread out, and the MC made it hard on the MC, and now here I am. I've got to dig out of this hole or whatever. You don't want to say that. Your goal is to look at this as a challenge now to bring your game up to the next level, so that now you can deal with this audience and make them all have a good time, even if it's this table here or that table there. You don't have to get everybody engaged, because, when they're spread out like that, if this table's having a good time, the other people want to participate too, right? It's like, you don't have to please everybody in the room at this moment. Just deal with the situation you have in front of you. It's sort of like when we feel like we're losing the audience, comedians will automatically talk louder. And that's not necessarily the best approach. Sometimes if you go to this table and start whispering in the mic, and it's like, yeah, okay, remember, it's just you guys and me right now. Nobody else can hear us. And of course, the whole room can hear you. Just the whisper by itself will draw people in. They'll go, okay, what's going on over there? And secondly, they're also going to giggle at the fact that obviously they can hear you, and even despite the fact that you're whispering, and that becomes the gag in itself. So there's lots of neat little things you can do with an audience that's spread out. But never blame the club, never blame the MC. Take that up later and ask the manager or something, hey, next time, can we make sure everybody sits front to back? Sort of fill up the front first rather than being all spread out. It'll just make for a better show. But you don't want to be angry about it, because that makes you a prima donna and a dick. So you want to really sort of just, you roll in there, and the best comic is able to handle any situation, and you look at it that way. You go in as a comic, you go, okay, this is going to be a challenge. Let's see what I can do with this. And if you approach it with that attitude rather than, oh, great, they're spread out and that fucking MC bombed, and now, this is all going to go to shit, then that kind of attitude is never going to win you any fans, either in the working environment or from your audience. Just go in and have a great sense of humor about shit not going the way you want it to go that night. Because we're comics, and that is our lives. It's like encountering obstacles all the time. Isn't that the essence of comedy? Trying to get from point A to point B and encountering obstacles? So here's an obstacle. Deal with it like a comic would deal with it. Stop complaining. Get up there and look at it as a new experience now. And if you solve that experience, you're up there and you take care of that job, and you do a great job at unifying this group that's spread out, now that's one more thing, one more notch in your belt, one more experience you can utilize to help grow as a comic and get better. Because if you experienced it once, you're going to experience it again. So remember, keep your sense of humor. Don't let this dilemma fuck you up. just go in there and have a great attitude about, okay, let's see what I'm going to do to make these guys. I feel like I'm talking in the comedy mode here. I got to talk to you guys here, and just have a good time with it rather than going in it automatically with a negative approach. That'll change your entire, right away, it'll change your entire approach to how you solve these problems. But ultimately, that is a typical comic situation. You know, just you're going in expecting a great show, expecting everything to go smoothly, but instead, massive obstacle. How are you going to deal with it comedically? Well, I hope this was helpful, even if it's not the answer you wanted. We don't put blame on other people. As comics, it's on us to solve the problem. That's what we do as comedians. I hope you found this useful. I hope you found other people found value in it. Trevor, keep working hard, brother. I think you're doing great stuff. So don't blame everybody else. Own that stuff, and I think you'll become a better comic as a result. So if you have any questions yourselves and you would like them answered, hit me up on Twitter at @JokeDoctor. That's my handle, @JokeDoctor. And then hit it with the hashtag AskTheJokeDoctor, and I'll be happy to put a little video together for you based on my 30 years of experience touring around the world and writing for The Tonight Show for 8 years and teaching and still touring and still performing and still encountering all kinds of different situations with audiences. So if this was helpful, hit me up on Twitter. And don't forget, if you like this channel, don't forget to subscribe. I would love to continue to connect with you and share some insight with you as much as I can. I will talk to you later. Take care. Bye-bye.